Lasell College in Newton has a very tailored look at history. That's because over the past 17 years, the school has been building a formidable fashion archive containing actual gowns and dresses from our most celebrated fashion designers. Bowen takes us there.
Off the rack at Lasell College means plunging into fashion history through centuries of style, tailoring, and glamour, all in very deep closets.
We have Claude Montana, we have Coco Chanel, we have Arnold Scazzi, of course, for contemporary.
Jill Carey is the spirited keeper of the collection, a curator who wears emotion on her sleeve.
When you find yourself in these stacks with all of these clothes, what's it like for you? I mean, do you still get excited?
Oh my gosh, Jared, it is wonderful. I can't even tell you. I open these doors. Well, I don't want to start crying. Sorry. I open these doors on a daily basis, and everything comes to life for me.
Carey's unadulterated passion for fashion led to the collection's creation in 1996. Open to the public by appointment, its primary role is to be the material muse to fashion students.
It brings history to life for them.
The fashion collection enchants from every hanger, closet, and shelf. Platform shoes from the 1940s, a purse for one's parasol, a 1920s Art Deco hat with a flash of panache, and another for victory after World War II. And then there's the Capitol Couture, the highlights Carey brought out for us, beginning with this brown gown, actually a wedding dress from the 1800s.
This is a taffeta file that has a very, very striking collar detailing, this beautiful double bow work in the front here, this extra feminine embellishment.
Here's a dress from the early 1900s reminiscent of women aboard the Titanic, and from the 1920s that certainly calls The Great Gatsby to mind.
All of this beading is hand done, and it is absolutely magnificent, in perfect condition.
Are you ever tempted to put any of these pieces on?
Oh gosh, no. To me,
I said tempted. You don't have to admit it, but
they're treasures. Actually, yeah, I would put the 70s, 1970s, and 60s pieces on, to be honest with you. So you're right.
Moving past this gown, just like those worn by Katharine Hepburn in nearly all of her films from the 1930s, we land in the 40s, when wartime designers did much with little, like adding simple tailoring or pleats.
This was very common from the 40s to add a little bit of design enticement, if you will, during a time when things were highly regulated.
Carey says everyone from Christian Dior to Marilyn Monroe brought sexy back in the 1950s, and it was Emilio Pucci who helped create a revolution in the 60s, with shorter hemlines and lots of color. Then came the 70s and the caftan, this one by Leo Narducci.
What Narducci was doing was designing textiles that could go in the washing machine and in the dryer, and he even did that with sequins. So he had this sequin fabric produced in the 70s that were wash and wear.
The collection runs almost to the present, but will leave off in the excessive 80s.
This was getting into glitz, power dressing, power fashion.
Designer to the stars Bob Mackie created Greek goddesses in gold lame and fur, while Scazzi had a dogged interest in faux fur.
We didn't know the background on these pieces, with the exception that they were both tagged Dalmatian collection. So we put two and two together and figured out, okay, Cruella de Vil, here we are, and it's wonderful.
It's also our material history, a design on the times that have defined us.
All right, and Bowen is here. Oh, who knew about this?
I know. They reached out to me. It's such a well-kept secret, and it's great. And this, I loved Jill Carey so much. She is actually one of my favorite interviews ever, because her passion is so palpable. She loves these clothes. She loves to introduce them to students, and they have a phenomenal collection.
So, so how do they use it at the school?
Well, they use it to teach students, and then she's also put together some traveling exhibitions. We actually had one of their exhibitions here at WGBH in our studios around one of the Downton Abbey airings, so clothing from that era. They have an exhibition of nurses' uniforms, which is really interesting, at Brigham and Women's right now. I mean, you think nurses' uniforms, but they've changed so much over the years, and that's what I so appreciated about everything that she brought out. I mean, when you look at how clothing has changed so dramatically from decade to decade, it really does give an insight into our times and pop culture that you don't necessarily think of when you just look at clothing in the abstract.
So how did this all get going? I mean, Because this has got to be an investment, too.
It's a huge investment, but they've had some terrific donations. I mean, she has worked with some of the curators at the Museum of Fine Arts who have helped them sculpt their collection. Yolanda Salucci donated a lot of materials, a lot of dresses, big designers when she closed her enterprise. So she's had some great mentors, and of course has a great eye and great relationships with a lot of people at this point. So a lot of people donate their pieces to her.
But I mean, as far as the general public, I mean, does anybody even know about it to go over and take a look?
Well, hopefully pieces like ours will change that, so people can come over.
How would they go about it?
They can just contact Lasell and contact Jill, and by appointment you can go over and see a lot of these pieces, and they are museum qualities. I mean, that's the thing. You see movies like The Great Gatsby, or you see these pieces in magazines, but when you're actually up close and you can appreciate it, it's another thing entirely to actually see the clothing and be able to experience it on that level.
Mm-hmm. All right, we had a big night last night for Bostonians at the Tonys.
At the Tony Awards. I think this is such validation for, first of all, what I've been saying for a while now, which is that this is such an amazing time for all of the arts, frankly, in Boston, from museum exhibitions that start here and travel, but certainly for theater. And we saw it bookended last night. We saw the American Repertory Theater have so many nominations for Pippin, which of course started here, and it won a number of awards last night, including Best Revival of a Musical, and then Diane Paulus won Best Director of a Musical. You know, it's something that she had shepherded to Broadway. I mean, she is in a phenomenal point in her career. She brought Hair to Broadway, won Best Musical. She brought Porgy and Bess to Broadway, won Best Musical, and now here she has done it again. She really is such a force to be reckoned with at this point.
Yeah, it's amazing that she'll get stolen away.
No, I think she's staying. But on the other end, you have the Huntington Theater Company, which was also honored with the Regional Theater Award. The Tony Committee selects one theater out of all of the theaters across this country for what they have done in the realm of theater arts, and they selected the Huntington Theater Company. There could not be a better time.
What were some of the examples with us that...
I believe they chose the Huntington in part because of what they've done for the local community by working with local playwrights. They mentor them, they develop them. Lydia Diamond, who we've had on our show, perfect example. They developed her Stick Fly, presented it here, and then it went to Broadway. And it's one of the few theater companies, I think, which is really focused on that level and brought people up into the mainstream.
All right, good for them. Jared Bowen, thanks so much. All right, that is it for Greater Boston. Tomorrow night, remember this. Fast forward almost 50 years with the Rolling Stones in town this week. Author and music lover Stephen Davis is here to talk about the band's relationship with Boston. We leave you now with a look at the runaway favorite from last night's Tony Awards, Pippin. I'm Emily Rooney. Good night.